Want to bet? Bet on what?
I'll take that bet right on.
Good morning, aspiring sharp bettors. Welcome to episode 2 of Want to Bet. I'm your host, Matthias, and for college football, week 1 is finally here. And today we're going to walk you through some betting trends, big line movements, and what the handle for the public looks like for some of these week 1 matchups. Our goal is to give you this info in 10 minutes or less. We'll try and stick to that. We cannot accomplish that if we don't jump right into things. So up first, we're going to go through some big line movements from what I would call overreactions from week 0. If anyone watched football last weekend, Florida State opened up the season playing Georgia Tech halfway across the planet. It was a rainy game. The weather sucked, and I think FSU played their worst game you'll see them play all season long. Last season, they were 8-6 against the spread. I would call it 8-5, considering they kind of punted on that Orange Bowl versus Georgia. When Travis Hunter went down, they kind of just waved their flag after they feel they got snubbed from the college football playoff. So they really didn't bring any type of action into that game. Quarterback DJU, I'd try and pronounce his last name, but I'd butcher it, so I'm just going to stick with his nickname. Last season, he was with Oklahoma State, had 21 touchdowns in the air, 7 interceptions, also ran for 6 touchdowns. I think he played his worst game of the season last weekend. They just looked like they played down to their competition and what I think is actually a pretty good Georgia Tech team. So this game opened up with Florida State laying 23.5, hosting Boston College this weekend. You got an East Coast team with a new head coach on the road going down south to Florida. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. And the Seminoles are going to be on an absolute get-right game. Like I said, opened up laying 23.5. You can now find this game minus 16 on Bet Rivers if your state offers that. Popular books like DraftKings and FanDuel, you can find 16.5. I absolutely love that swing. If this game stayed at 23.5, I think it'd still be worth putting a ticket in for Florida State. Getting it bet down all the way to 16.5, I would absolutely hammer this one. If you're going to put multiple units on any of the games I recommend, this is going to be the one. I've got 1 unit locked in. Very well may bet that up to 1.5 or 2. So yeah, as betting trends go, complete get-right game for Florida State. Next, we continue from the overreactions from week 0. Nevada Wolfpack last weekend hosted the SMU Mustangs. They were a 27-point dog and ended up covering, only losing by 4. 29-25 was the final score. SMU played a pretty good game, had over 400 yards through the air, also had over 100 yards of penalties. They lost the time of possession big time. They had a turnover when Nevada didn't. I think that Nevada's getting overvalued going down south to Troy this weekend. If you do not live in an area where you get high humidity, I'm in the Midwest. I know what 60, 70, 80, 90% humidity feels like. The boys in Nevada do not. Going down to Troy, Alabama this weekend, it's supposed to be 94 degrees with 66% humidity. That's going to be absolutely brutal. Troy was a good team last season. They won 11 games. They were 8-6 against the spread. Not great, not terrible. But this game opened up Troy as a 16.5-point favorite. Now it's been bet down as low as 8.5 on most books. I like laying the 8.5. You kind of get off of a key number in 8. If at the time that you're going to put a wager in for this one, if it gets bet up to Troy, I'm off of it at 10. All the way up to 9.5, I think it's still a safe bet. Once you hit 10, I'd stay away from it. Currently, you can still get that 8.5 or even 9 on FanDuel and DraftKings, minus 110 price. So that's a bet I like as well. Finally, for big line movements, we have the Syracuse Orange, who were 5-7-1 against the spread last season. They have a new head coach, Fran Brown. Fran Brown came from Georgia. He was a defensive backs coach. He also had a lot to do with recruiting new talent. So people have really started to gas Syracuse up because entering next season, they have a top 40 recruiting class. It takes time to build a college football program. When you're a new head coach, you are getting used to being the CEO of a company now. So recruiting talent is of utmost importance. But also, it's not easy running that show on the sidelines when you've never done it before. They're playing the Ohio Bobcats from the Mid-American Conference, the MAC. Ohio has completely dominated that conference. Since 2017, they've won 5 bowl games. So they've won a bowl game every single season since 2017. If you go back and check the rest of the MAC combined, they've only won 6 bowl games. So they are the cream of the crop when it comes to that conference. Syracuse opened this one up, 13-point favorite at home. Now it's been bet all the way up to 17.5. So some offshore books like Bovada. I don't use offshore books. I just don't have faith in the payout structure. I've never dabbled in it. If you guys do, looks like you can get 18 on Bovada, 17.5 on the more common spots, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Caesars. If you can get if you can get the Ohio Bobcats at that 17.5 point, I think that's definitely worth putting a unit on. All 3 of those are the big line moves that I like quite a bit. I'm just going to run through the other line movements I see here that really don't give me enough additional reasons to place the wagers. I know one thing's for sure. If you bet money every time a line jumped up, so let's say that, just for an example, if a team was favored, they're going to win by 10 points, and that goes all the way up to 13. Historically, if you would always bet on the team that point total raised up that they were laying, you'd be losing money. So I do like going against the line movements and betting the dogs. That's always been a pretty safe betting trend. So I'm just going to ramble through a few other ones here. If you guys want to do some research on your own individually, I wouldn't look too far into these. I think the 3 we just talked about are the perfect games to bet this week. Boise State Broncos at Georgia State opened up Boise State -10. You can currently get them at -13. Colorado State going to the Texas Longhorns opened up Longhorns 36.5, currently laying 32.5. I know Texas running back did get hurt, so I think that's why the majority of that line move come from. You can get Florida International at Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana opened up 18.5 point favorite, currently a 21.5 point favorite. That's one. Either bet Florida International or don't bet that one at all. Indiana has a new head coach from JMU. His first game, that's getting gassed up. That's a complete stay away for me. I don't like betting, new head coaches with that big of a spread. The risk is not worth the reward. UConn Huskies at Maryland opened up Maryland -27.5. You can now get them at -20.5. Finally, Georgia State Panthers at Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. That one opened up Georgia Tech -18. Now it's been bet to 22 because of their performance last weekend. Those are the line moves I like, the 3. Like I said, multiple unit play, Florida State. The rest, I think, are a safe 1 unit play. So far this season, we're 4-1. Hopefully that streak keeps continuing. This is the strategy we've been using. Another game I like quite a bit if we can get the hook on it. Florida hosting the Miami Hurricanes this weekend. Massive rivalry, a bit of a loser leaves town scenario. Both teams have a little bit of inconsistency at head coach where the programs continuously wait for them to take them to the next level. A lot of people have bet Miami to win the ACC this year. I love the points with the Gators. Gainesville is going to be going nuts. It's going to be humid. It's going to be hot. The place is going to be electric. Right now, I think 2.5 is the best you can find. If I see that flash of 3, I'm going to put a unit on that as well. So those would be my 4 biggest plays. I'll post all my picks for this weekend up here somewhere so you guys can go through them. But just considering to keep this segment short and sweet, those are my 3 favorite bets with another additional just to take in case we can get that 3. Welcome to week 1, everybody. So subscribe, hit that bell notification. We're going to do this every single Saturday morning. We're also going to do this every Sunday morning once the NFL season starts. So follow along with us. And most importantly, best of luck today, and let's win some bets.